thanks for tuning in. I wanted to remind you of our Road to 1,000 subscribers giveaway that we have going on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe and have a public profile, you'll be entered to win a free RX Smart Gear original jump rope. You'll get to pick the pattern of the handles, the color and weight of the cable, and you'll be getting one of the best-selling, best-performing jump ropes out there. Every time we hit a new century mark with the number of subscribers to our channel, we'll randomly select a new winner. And our friend Dave Newman is going to throw in a little something extra for each winner. So a special thanks to our sponsor, RX Smart Gear, to Dave Newman for being such a great partner, and to you for being a loyal listener. Good luck, and I hope you are our next winner.
Interview to tell you about our newest sponsor, Up Before You Coffee. They are an amazing coffee. It is delicious, has different little notes of chocolate and things like that. And it's really clean and crisp when you drink it in the morning. But they have a light roast. They also have a medium roast, as you can see there. We are so excited about this sponsorship. If you use Clydesdale 20, all caps, Clydesdale 20, you can get 20% off your order. Just go to upbeforeyou.com and order your coffee. It's delicious. You'll love it.
There you go. See?
Yeah, we have missed so much good content because I forgot to hit the record button. And then we made it like a standard thing where as soon as I get on, I should hit the record button. Then as people come in, we'll just cut off the front if it's wasted. But some of our best conversations have been before we actually get started.
Yeah, I used to always record everything. And then I started giving like, what would you call it? Like a preamble to the guest to tell them like that they don't need to self-edit, like that they can, email me a week later and be like, oh God, I shouldn't have said that. So I kind of started recording after I say that, just as like a little bookmark for myself. And then it makes it way quicker editing it as well, because I don't have to go back and be like, oh God, how many minutes was I talking to them for before I actually started properly?
Yeah, that would probably make it easier.
Yeah. I mean, you've captured fuck all since you've hit record here anyway, so this isn't a gold mine so far.
That's right. You're talking about it's quality gold.
Well, at least my husband's done cutting the lawn, so you won't hear the lawnmower in the background like we did last hour. So that's a plus.
Great.
Well, did you already record one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just recorded at 1 o'clock, 1 to 2.
Yeah,
So
Jacqueline Goldstrom.
Jacqueline.
Oh. It's back here. Your wall is cool, Scott. I like that.
What's that?
I maximize you. The back, your wall behind you is cool.
Yeah.
With your posters and stuff. I like that.
But you don't have anything that says Clydesdale on it, which is I've noticed.
Well, I have too much that says mine on it.
Yeah. I'm not a shill like Peter is.
I got this, I bought that pull-up. It's like, one of those pull-up retractable banners, because I was like, oh, there's going to be so many events. I better buy like something that if I'm ever invited to an event, I go, and then the world shut down and it was the like biggest waste of $40.
I keep getting these ads on my Instagram for like a step and repeat to put behind you, with your logo, a bunch of different places. It's like when celebrities take pictures in front of, they go on a red carpet event and there's a background. It's called a step and repeat. And every time I'm on Instagram now, I see these things and it's like someone's trying to tell me something. I need to get one.
Yeah, I used to think that your phone listens to you, and then
100%.
someone poo-pooed it and like said that it's what did they say it was? That it was whatever.
Is it like cookies or?
Yeah, and what's the name of the thing where like the government can track you down with a number? What's the name of that number? Not IBAN, that's your bank. Oh, whatever your unique logon code that your internet has at your house or whatever. So if you visit,
like your
IP
address.
That's it. If I visited Scott's house and he had been looking up, I don't know, like Mekons for days previously, then I log in from his house on my phone, then I'll get ads for them. But chances are we will also have spoken about the fact that he's like, oh, did you know there's a sale on Mekons or whatever? So then I'll go away and think, fucking phone's listening to me. Like it's listening to my conversations. Yeah. But Yeah, I don't really give a shit, to be honest. I'd rather see ads that are relevant to me than stuff that I'm not interested in. I'd rather not see ads for like Barbie dolls. Like, there's no relevance to me.
Yeah, then I just get concerned though when I get ads that are super random and not related to anything I've ever searched before, and then I'm like, oh, who was on my computer? What were they doing? Like when my daughter was young, I remember, she's 16 now, but when she was about probably 6 or 7, she used to use my laptop, and I would go through the search history to see like what she was Googling. And one of the things, is the funniest thing, it said how to get an accent. That was what she was Googling. She was trying to get an accent. Just
Have you got a son?
I do, yeah. He's 18, she's 16.
Don't do that with his laptop.
Yeah, right. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. No, thank you. I already know, like, I have control of his bank account. And so, like, we have a joint account because I put money in it for his car and whatever else. And yeah, he spends money on stuff that I can't even talk about. I'm like, what exactly is this? Porn's free, you don't have to pay for it. You really don't have to pay for it, but
he needs higher quality, apparently.
Apparently.
He just wants to support the industry. He wants to support local business.
Yeah. He doesn't want it to go away.
Yeah. He knows there's hot singles in his area, and he wants to support them.
The best was when my daughter, who's 2 years younger than him, probably when she was 7 or 8, had a girlfriend over, and they were on his laptop, and
Thanks.
They were watching something they should not have been watching. And I had to make the phone call to the mom of the daughter to explain. And luckily she had an older son and sort of was like, I totally get it. Like, I understand, but I was mortified.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I think we're off to a raging start now.
Yes.
And I guess this is brought to you by Smooth My Balls.
Speaking of targeted ads.
We have the testicular influencer, Peter White, with us from Coffee Pods and Wods.
I've got 5 of those. Like, hey, why don't you DM us and we'll set you up as one of our ambassadors? And it's like, what part of my profile has attracted you to it? Like, what? Like, I know I put up like loads of pictures of testicles, but apart from that, I mean, there's nothing for them to go on. It's cool. It's cool to be here. I'm absolutely shitting myself, but it's great. It's always good to be out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, so like I told you ahead of time, we're just going by the seat of our pants. We'll get to know Peter a little bit, and then we're going to talk some game stuff. But it's open to all my co-hosts to ask questions. We want to make this like the Spanish Inquisition and hit Peter with as much as we can.
Yeah, and we'll talk over each other as much as possible, like we usually do.
Perfect.
I just won't say anything like usual.
Exactly.
So Peter, you live in what part of Ireland?
The middle. So like there's no point in me saying the name of the town. Like, it's not like you're gonna be like, oh, I've been there like several times. Like the very middle, the very center. So it's like the center of Ireland. Probably one of our only claim. One Direction, the band.
Yes.
Yep.
Niall in One Direction.
Yes.
He's from the same town that I live in. So he's from Mullingar. So if you know anyone that stalks him, there you go. That's her. I've never met him or anything, but yeah, Mullingar. So it's like about an hour and a bit from Dublin, which would be the capital. And then like an hour and a bit from, I'd say Americans will find that hilarious. That I'm an hour from one coast and an hour from the other coast in the center of the country. Are you in Dublin, Ohio? I saw someone who was in Dublin, Ohio. Who's in Dublin?
Charlie.
Yep.
That's crazy to me that there's another Dublin. That's funny.
And it's a very Irish town. We have the Irish
Is it really?
Fest. Oh yeah. All our schools are shamrocks and everything else. It's very
Celtics and
Celtic, yeah.
And was that like someone, I assume whoever like founded the town or whatever had some link to Dublin?
I'm gonna say yes. I don't know the answer, but I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, you probably just had a huge like immigration population in that town, is what I would imagine.
Yeah, it was the Vikings that founded Dublin here. I find it unlikely.
Yeah, so yeah, Dublin, Ohio, they take like St. Patrick's Day is like huge to them.
Yeah.
They paint the streets green. They like it's massive, huge festival.
The
Yeah,
second
St. Patrick's Day is
biggest
bigger in
Irish
America than anywhere here, though.
Probably.
Like
Yeah.
way bigger.
Yeah.
We get a day off, and it's my wedding anniversary. But like apart from that, like there's parades and stuff. But like say they weren't on last year, obviously. But like nobody really gave that much of a crap. Like it was just like, oh, it's another thing that's not on. Whereas like I'd say in America, it was like, what?
Well, we tend to supersize and over commercialize everything we can
Yeah.
think of. So it makes sense.
You've
Yeah.
got the finances to do that though. Ireland doesn't.
True.
Yeah. So the only thing like I knew about Ireland is my favorite band is U2. I read Angela's Ashes, and yep, that's about it.
Yeah, I
That
think
movie with
the channel the other way is much clearer. Like I know loads about America because like the majority of our television, the majority of our film, the majority of our celebrities are American. So then we get loads of like pop culture from America, and then you kind of find out other stuff as well. Whereas like, you know, there's Irish TV shows that if you guys watch, you're like, what the hell is this? I'll send you some videos.
It's true. I'm embarrassed at how little we know about European geography too. Just, you know, and I was the history major in college, and I think I am pretty good at geography. But if you were to ask me like what latitude Ireland was compared to like the U.S., I would have no.
I don't know
idea.
what latitude I'm at. Do you know what latitude you're at?
Well,
Like what number?
No, but I guess like being
I'm above
from
the equator.
US, right? Okay, well, fair enough.
I'm like halfway up.
I have a hard time with that
Didn't
even
say
within
that.
the US, actually.
Yeah.
On a
Well, I
boat.
think we're in line with like I could be way off. Maybe I just shouldn't say it in case I'm way off. I don't know. I think I imagine us in a line with like New York because like the Titanic
kind
went
of-
from
I think.
like say Cork to New York. Well, it was supposed to go to New York, so you'd imagine that it was going in like a relatively straight line. So I just assume we're at like that height. Height is the wrong word. Let's move on from
I know what you
geography.
Maybe they
Who
should
brought
not
latitude
have
anyway?
gone
So if I look at I'm looking at a flat map right now in like on Google or whatever.
Earth is flat.
Oh, so it's accurate
Makes
then.
sense.
No, yeah, exactly. So it looks like you guys are straight across from like Canada, like central Canada, which can't be right.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it looks like Portugal and Spain are more aligned with New York. But again, who knows?
Yeah,
I'll
I
take
don't
that
know.
on that.
Maybe we are. That seems quite high up though, but I don't know.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
picked
Well, I
the
would
wrong
think that you would
website
get
to look at.
way worse winters if you were that high up.
Yeah, I mean they're not great, but it's not that we have no extremes of weather. Like we have like Canada has extremes of snow and then like has like bake you can see in Vellner's stories like he's like acclimatizing to the sun by training in the shade. You wouldn't need to do that here. But we just have like it's just very meh like all the time. Like it's like dull and like gray now. But it's not cold, but it's not hot either. Like, you know, I wear shorts and t-shirt all summer, but like I could definitely just wear trousers. Like it's not hot really. But then in the winter it's never that bad. We usually have like two bad weeks or 3 bad weeks. Where there's like snow and stuff. That's only like since global warming, like we didn't have that before. But we've gotten extremes in that kind of sense. But like an extreme for us is like, you know, they needed to salt the roads. Like, oof, it's getting pretty bad. But like we've no snow. I don't even think there's a snowplow in the country.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Again, not sure if that's true or not, but I've never seen one. So should put a disclaimer at the start that like 90% of what I say is baseless.
That's funny. So did you say that your wedding anniversary is March 17th?
Yeah. Same
How long have you
Patrick's
been
Day.
married?
Thanks for that. 1703 18 2018. It's my passcode for my phone. That's how I remember that. 2018. So what's
Oh,
that?
so you're like a newlywed basically compared to us.
Yeah. Yeah, we got married on St. Patrick's Day, and it snowed, which was really weird. Because it's like March. That's odd. Um, and we got married, and Ireland were playing England in the Six Nations, which is like big rugby tournament. So it's like Ireland, England, France, Italy, Scotland, Wales play every year, and Ireland were playing England during our ceremony and like afters. So there was like most people left the TV in the venue and came. Some didn't. Most people did. But our immediate families did, which is always good. But yeah, we went back, we watched the end of it then. And we had booked like a string quartet to play like, like current-ish songs or, like in the background kind of we were at the thing. And I remember, I don't think I'll ever forget what's the big one? The cello, is it? Or the double bass or something, like one of the big ones anyway. And he had his music sheet and he was like playing the music, whatever. And I was like, God, he's really like focused on his music. And then I realized he had his phone like propped on the music stand and he was watching the match on his phone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was a great day and it snowed. And I gave my wife a dog during my wedding speech, like a little puppy. She always
Really?
wanted a puppy. She always wanted a pug puppy. And she said, oh, if I ever get a pug puppy, I want it to be like handed to me with a balloon coming out of it. And like, so then I was like, okay. So we got her a little pug puppy and one of the groomsmen came in with it at the end of my speech. So it was good. Yeah, it was enjoyable, memorable. I don't remember a lot after that, but like up as far as there was really good.
That's adorable. So what's the pug's name?
Frank.
I love it.
That's my
So we
dog's
have
name.
Frank and Flo. And then if you ask, my daughter is like 1.5. We're currently minding her parents' dog. The three of them are going to like the kennels or whatever tomorrow because we're going away for a week. And so they have a big white like Labradoodle called Bonnie. And if you ask Sloan like what are the dogs' names, so she can't really speak properly, but she tries like so she'd go like Ba for Bonnie and then like Fo for Flo. And then if you point at Frank, she just goes Dog. So he doesn't even get a name, which is great. Like, because it's you like if she did it to one of the other dogs, you'd be trying to fix it and try to teach the name. But when it's Frank, it's just funny because like it's just a dog. Like he's just so
Dog.
useless. Like, yeah. So that's a little window into my life.
You're
And-
having another baby, right?
Yeah, in September. Yeah.
Boy or girl? Do you know?
We do know, but I don't
not
think definitely not on
Okay.
public broadcast. But I'm not confident enough that we are telling people to announce it.
Got it.
But yeah, no, it's exciting. I've heard that the second one is easier because how can I word this properly? You don't give as much of a shit. No, but you're not as concerned. You're not as like, oh God, like it's gonna snap in half if I leave it down too quickly, or it's gonna,
Yep.
like you're kind of more willing for them to cry, I suppose, because you know that when there's nothing wrong and stuff like that. Whereas with Sloan, it was like, yeah, there's a lot of eggshells for a long time of like, we're ruining her, like we're emotionally scarring her if she's crying for more than like 15 seconds.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, she's cool. She was rough at the start, like reflux and like sleepless nights and stuff, but she's great. She's incredibly entertaining and robust and ballsy and climb stuff, and like we've a set of rings outside like hanging off a pull-up bar outside, and she'll like hold on to the two rings and get you to like like swing her, like push her backwards and forwards on them. So she's good fun. She's like copying burpees and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, she's good crack. So if the second one is as much fun but sleeps better, that'd be cool.
That would be nice.
So what made you want to get into the podcast world?
I kind of just, I don't know, I just kind of had, it was around the time the Filthy 150 was on, during that sanctional season in 2019, and Tim Paulson was over and he came to our gym and did like a workshop for, like a 5-hour workshop or whatever. And he went out for dinner with a few of us afterwards, like the owners and a few other people. And we're just kind of chatting. And I asked him about the rope climb event from the previous year, because he just had a stinker with it. And I was just kind of like, is it hard, say like 3 days after the games, not to just be doing like 10,000 rope climbs, like, just being like, but this held me back, so it'll never hold me back again. But then you go too far the other way. And like kind of similar questions to that, where like things I had thought about in the moment when I was watching him, and then things I had thought about afterwards myself. When you miss a lift and you're like, well, damn it, I'm going to get it. Like, like you, it's hard to just let go of it. And it's obviously something, especially people, those like that breed of athletes have just some crazy competitive capabilities that I think we don't even understand, like to push themselves to those limits. So it must be worse for them when they miss something than it would be for us when we miss something. And I was just kind of chatting about stuff like that. And then he had said at one point in the conversation, he's like, geez, nobody ever asked me that, like about a bad workout, or like no one ever made me think about a bad moment. Like people only ask about the good moments. And then I was kind of like, geez, there must be questions that I think I'd like to ask people that other people would also like to hear the answers to. Because I think a lot of interviews can be a bit sterile. They can be a bit like, I think you're amazing. Here's why I think you're amazing. Reaffirm the fact that I think you're amazing by talking about these points that I think are amazing. And like, or else even worse than that, it'd be like, tell us what food you eat and tell us how you train and tell us like what you do just before you go to the gym. And then that's all that's said. And there's nothing there. Like, it's just kind of, I don't know, they're like fluff pieces, I guess, where it benefits it benefits the athlete because they're being heard, and it benefits the whatever company or whatever is putting it out, because it's like, the athlete's not going to shy away from working with them again because they haven't been asked anything difficult or like put in an awkward position. So
It's safe.
yeah, I think I got kind of frustrated listening to those kind of safe like interviews, or reading those safe interviews. And usually there are companies who are trying to sell a protein tub and they're like, let's get this athlete on, and it's like, favorite workout, those kind of ones. So I just kind of thought like, oh, that'd be something that'd be fun. And then I just said it to someone, and I remember coming home from 5150 and like drawing out the logo like roughly, and sending it to one of my friends who's a graphic designer, and he sent me back like that a couple of days later. And it just kind of became real. Then I just started reaching out to people. I did like a practice episode with someone just to see what it felt like, and then did a real episode. And yeah, it just kind of grew. Like, I mean, I'm, as weird as it sounds, I'm eternally grateful to COVID, because like it gave me access to people that I should have never have had access to, like people who just had nothing but time in their hands. And then like once you get one big name, dominoes start to fall, because I've had people say, oh, well, I looked and saw you had Vellner on your show, so it was a no-brainer or whatever. Whereas, if it was like, oh, well, I looked and I saw you had like, Pat from Brighton on, so I didn't bother replying to your message. Like the big names look for other big names, they look for previous. And then I suppose for me, the benefit of it is, like, say today's episode, I had like two Irish guys who run a competition, like a small local competition that they're trying to grow, and they're trying to make it into like a viable thing for them to keep doing every year, and they're trying to grow it. And because I now have a bit of a spotlight, I can turn it onto them instead of just, it gives me the freedom now to be like, okay, well, I can have big names if I can organize it, but I can also share, like, shine a light on these people who deserve it as like just as much, but aren't getting it as regularly as the Vellners and so on. But yeah, it's good. It's enjoyable. Like, I'm like never really thought I'd be as passionate about it as I am. And I kind of, for the first while, thought for a long time, well, this is going to wane eventually. So I need to figure out a way to put things in place so that when I do get bored of it, I'm able to work through that and keep going. And it hasn't happened yet, where, I've had other people say like, oh, you must get sick of it. Like, and it's like, I absolutely love it. Like, I love the challenge of trying to get like people to say yes. And I love the challenge of trying to get myself to be better the next time. Or, like sometimes during interviews, I'd be thinking like, that was so stupid. Like, what did you ask that for? Like, don't ever ask that question again. I rarely compliment myself mid-interview, except when it was Chris Hinshaw, and every time I asked him a question, he was like, "That's a great question," and I was like, "Hell yeah, that was a great question." So I could barely fit my head out the door. And then in hindsight, I kind of realized like that's a very American way. I think it's a very American way to buy time to think of an
Pausing.
answer
Yeah.
of like, "That's a great question," and I could have just said like, so "What's your favorite color?" It's like, "That's a great. Let me think about that for a second."
That's
But
a sign of somebody who's been interviewed a lot too, because
yeah,
you can tell like people that get interviewed a lot do that as a
a
way
time
for
buyer.
them to gather their thoughts. Yeah,
Not Hinshaw though. He meant it, right?
I'm sure.
Of course.
Always.
It's
He
funny
doesn't
because
need time.
I know you got to have a full long form podcast with Dave Castro. We got just a brief, Kat and I got a brief, I don't know, 2 minutes with him. And we were doing silly questions and he kept saying, "No, that's a great question."
Yeah.
Like, would
But
you
I think
rather?
he would actually enjoy that though. Like he's because I wasn't sure what he was going to be like, and like for the for the first like 15 minutes, he was loading a gun in like he was like preparing a weapon on camera when I was talking to him, and I was like, well, if this isn't intimidation, I don't know what is.
Right.
I was like, I'm pretty sure he can't shoot me through the screen, but like there's I don't know that much about weaponry, but no, it was definitely, I think that was like an hour. I had him for an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 minutes. And I'd say the first 20 minutes, he was really like seeing what I was about and like feeling me out a bit. Am I going to like throw a punch at him or am I going to, tease him out? Or I think he was very cautious, like, and rightfully so, because he's been thrown around the place a bit, like, so I think he wanted to see, but then he warmed up after a while and he was so affable and so like charming and charismatic, and like I really really liked him afterwards, like during and afterwards. um and I've heard him like I've heard him on say Talking Elite where the entire interview is basically him going like, I'm not ready to talk about that yet, and like that's what I was expecting. I was expecting him to just be telling me to piss off over and over again. So I was thrilled when he kind of opened up about some stuff. Yeah, no, he was that was a definite highlight. But he's a really nice guy. I think he gets really shit run of it as well. Like, he announced the individual event won as like a swim and paddleboard, and people were like, "Oh, for God's sake, swim and paddleboard!" It's like he can't win. Like, whatever he says, if he didn't have swim and paddleboard, people would be bitching there's no swimming and paddleboard. And then when he does, it's like, oh, same every year. It's like, oh, come on. Like, you're going to test the fittest. Like, he's not going to throw out the whole book he had previous years. They'll be like, all those tests were stupid. I need to start from scratch. Like, there's obviously going to be crossover. And I think, he knows himself that he can't please everyone. And he's always going to piss someone off with something he does. So he just leans into it. And I think that people then assume, well, he's obviously an asshole because he leans into it. But like, if he doesn't lean into it, what's the alternative? He just never gives interviews, never talks to anyone, shies away, doesn't put anything up on Instagram because he's just going to get hate. It's a bit of a tightrope, I think, that kind of stuff.
So let's talk about the games a little bit. You brought it up with event one. You are not able to attend this year because your wife is giving birth to your new child.
Well, also because of finances.
So what is COVID like? Can you get to the States? Is it just expensive to get to the States?
I haven't looked into the price of it. No, well, we're on the no-fly list for you. For like, we can't go to America, but Americans can come here. So up until recently, Americans had to, or people arriving from North America had to quarantine for 2 weeks in a hotel, and it was like €3,000, so like $3,500, I guess. And then recently, then we took countries off the list because we're worse. So anyone can come now to Ireland. I think they have to have a negative test in 5 days or something. I'm not sure. And then, but we got special dispensation because if you looked at, so I didn't realize, I thought like because America was off our list that it was like a quid pro quo that like, hey, Joe, we're going to take Americans off the list. Can you take like Irish off the list? Because, you're always going on about how you're from Mayo and there's a big link there. And he was like, no. So like I was talking to Sam Stewart and Emma McQuaid, who are flying over for the games, like to participate. And I was like, when do you fly out? Because Emma's really good friends with Sam Briggs, and Sam Briggs had done the semifinals with Emma. So I assumed when I saw that Sam Briggs was gone back to Ohio that like Emma was following like a few days later or whatever. And she was like, oh no, we can't go. Like we can't get there. So up until last Friday or last Thursday, they were having to go to Dubai or Mexico for 2 weeks. Live there for like 2 weeks. And then if they went to Dubai, I think they would have had to hotel quarantine. But if they go to Mexico, I think they didn't. And then they could go to America and like be like just enter society or whatever. But like obviously not the most ideal games prep to be like in a hotel in Dubai for 2 weeks, or even like in normal, if you're allowed to be out in Dubai, like you'd melt before you got to America. So but thankfully CrossFit sorted it out with, I don't know, whatever, Homeland Security, or I don't know who they sorted it out with anyway, but they sorted out that there was special dispensation given to athletes from all over the world and a +1. So Emma, I think, landed in America like yesterday, and she's going to Sam Briggs's house, and they're going to train together because they're the same coach as well. But he didn't go, I don't think. And then I don't know about Sam. And then there's a couple of masters athletes as well who they're obviously leaving later because like they have jobs and stuff, and lives that they have to balance out and checks to balance and stuff. But yeah, I even if Eric Rosa was like, hey, we need you we need you over here with your shitty pull-up banner and your mic for whatever reason, I still wouldn't be able to go, because I think I can't. Like if you look at the government website from the USA, it's so funny because it's like Europe including, and then it lists every country in Europe, and it's like you could just say Europe, like unless I've misread it and there's like one country like Georgia is not in it or something, but all the rest of them, like they just have a whole list of all the countries, and it's basically Europe, China, and India can't go to the USA. And I think there's issues for Australian athletes because it's so far, because it's so expensive, and then when they come back, they're going to be screwed. Because even Australia and New Zealand now, they had like an agreement that you could fly between the two frequently, like no problem, and they've shut that down because the cases in Australia are higher than they are in New Zealand. So New Zealand were like, no, you're not coming back here. So I know there's a few, like I know a guy Callum who's staying with Sonny Webster, and he's just stuck in his house. So he's like doing loads and loads and loads of content with him because he's like, I'm stuck here, and his partner is going to the games on a team, so he's not going to get to see her before she goes. So he's like just churning out content so that he has some kind of purpose, I suppose, when he's there. But like, there's a lot of scenarios like that are people are going to be stuck in when they come back the other side. And like, you'd worry for people like Cara and, who have families. But I guess they're the sacrifices, unfortunately, this year. And I think people are more desperate than ever this year as well to get there. Like even media people are like, I'll get a loan if I have to. Like, I just need to get there because there's just been such a drought of like things to do and look at and content and everything. So I'm excited for it though. And I be interested to see what long and very long means in the first workout, or long and even longer. And then the second workout looks shit cool as well.
Yeah. I like that second one a lot.
I like the announcement as well.
Yeah.
Classic.
That's a good way for Cashford to avoid getting blowback. Is to just have someone famous do it so that no one will comment negatively on it. Yeah.
My daughter, who does not care one bit about CrossFit, loved that announcement because Schmidt gave it. Yep.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So we're going to be there. We're super stoked about it. You've been there in the past.
Yeah.
What are your you've been to Madison, right? As a spectator.
Yeah.
Not a games athlete?
No, I was discounting myself as like some kind of media guy that turned up. Like I literally bought a ticket and like flew over. No, we stayed. I was actually looking at it. Did you see they put up the picture today of the campsite? CrossFit. I don't know, CrossFit Games, I think, put up that there's minimal spots left in camping or whatever, and you could see our tent. If you like zoomed in on the far left, you could see we stayed in one of the like the RX camping ones, so the tent was there set up, and it had like aircon and stuff because Orla was pregnant at the time, and she was like, we couldn't afford a hotel or anything else, and Orla was like, I'm not staying in a tent and like literally baking this unborn child, like, so we're getting aircon. But I got serious like FOMO when I saw that picture of the campsite, because it all like everything smells and sounds and everything came rushing back. And I actually got a bit emotional where I was like, God, it's so amazing that it's going to be on. And I'm so like happy for people that are going, while also hating everyone that's going, while also loving the fact that it's on. Do you know, like it's no, I think it's such a good basically week. And Madison is such a cool city as well. Like it's so fit. Like there's so much like fit stuff going on, and there's so much like space, and it's just nice. Like because I was in Chicago afterwards, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so boxed in. Like everything was just so high. I was like, I got a creak in my neck from just walking around with like my head up. But yeah, Madison is cool, and we actually on one of the days that there was no events on. I think there was like events on one of the days, and there was a gap or something. We got like they have electric bikes in Madison that you rent. There's little stops or whatever that you rent them at, and we got them. And I will never forget that Orla's bike worked perfectly and mine didn't. So like the electric component of my bike just didn't exist. Like it was just like an electric bike that had no power, and it was the heaviest thing I have ever moved. Like I was like, we were like pedaling. I was like, oh my God, there's so much power in this. And then it just stopped. And like, there's a good few hills in Madison as well. Like it's quite hilly, especially when you move away from the center and you're going through like, residential areas. And I was like, pumping sweat, like standing up, like going side to side. It was like a stage of the Tour de France. And Orla was like sitting down, just like barely moving her feet and like going flying past. So then we went to another stop, and I was like, I'm going to swap this bike out. Like, screw this. So I swapped the bike out. Exact same thing happened. I got like 50 feet from the stop and the power cut out in the bike. So like obviously someone was returning it both times. Someone had returned it like seconds before I arrived and like sat on it or whatever. So that's one of my prevailing memories. And it's really good. There's so many good coffee shops as well, and so many good like Mexicans and stuff like that in this city. But yeah, no, it's amazing. It's amazing that it's on. I just hope that it can happen the way that it's meant to happen. I hope that things can keep going in the same direction that they're going in, because I know in America things have been improving a lot recently, and I hope that it just keeps happening like that, so that there isn't like a sudden shift of like, oh crap, we have to change everything. Or because I think the community needs it, I think. And like we got flashes of it with semifinals, but I think the big lacking thing from semifinals was the raucous crowd, like the huge audience. And I think that's something that everyone's looking forward to seeing again.
Yeah. And having been to like 3 of the live semis, the crowd definitely built over that time. You're right. It wasn't that big raucous crowd that we're used to, but it was getting bigger and bigger each week. So I'm excited for that. So what are your predictions for this year's games? Since you're so good at fantasy fitnessing,
every table needs a last place. So we do so you have like fantasy football in America, like in the States. We have like fantasy football as well, but it's for like the Premier League for soccer. And you pick like 11 players, and then like your subs, and you there's a limits. You have an amount of money you can spend, and there's limits, and you get points for goals and assists and stuff like that, and clean sheets. And every year, without fail, I start like full, like overflowing with hope of like, this is it. I can feel it. I like click save on my team, and I'm like, I am a god at fantasy football. Look at that team. That is incredible. There's points all over the place. Within 2 weeks, it's fallen apart. And like 3 of the players have been sold, or someone broke their leg, or like every year. But I'll still be really hopeful the following year. It turns out that it's just any fantasy sport that it happens to be with, where I'm like, holy crap, look at this semi-final roster I've picked. And it's like, I mean, nobody's going to touch what's wrong with everyone? Why are all these athletes not performing the way I expected them to? And then just everything falls apart. Yeah, predictions, like, there's literally no point. Like, there's no point. Like, and like literally anything could happen, especially 15 events. Like, is that's intense. There's going to be a lot of like sprints, and there's going to be a lot of like max lifts. You'd have to assume, because otherwise they're just going to like break people. So then, like those kind of sprints and those heavy lifts have such a huge effect on the leaderboard, because some outlier, like look, Royce Dunn coming over from Australia, if it's like a 1 rep max or a 3 rep max deadlift or something, like he's not going to finish. If like everything would have to go really, really well for him to finish like in the top three, which I hope it does because he's an amazing guy. But everything would have to go incredibly well for him for the entire 15 events for him to finish in the top three. But if some kind of deadlift thing comes up, he's going to kill it. And that'll have a big effect on the leaderboard. So like of the 15 events, I'm really excited to see them all like lined up, so that you can see someone like more intelligent than me, like someone like Brian Friend will look at it and say, all right, these are the 3 events. Like these are the ones that like really, really will have a huge effect on the leaderboard, because there's going to be a lot of flip flopping with some, where some outlier is going to come and do something and it's going to be like, where did that guy come from? And then you never see them again. But I think that like the first event, the swim and the paddleboard, I think a lot of people will be gunning for it, because people like Brent, Tia, like people who are strong swimmers and strong paddleboarders will be thinking, here's like, I mean, when was the last time Brent Fikowski had a chance to make some damage on day one? Like he'd be like, oh, amazing confidence builder. Usually day one is terrible, and here I go, like I actually have a good start. And there'd be other people, I'm sure, like that as well. There'd be other people who always like start to pull stuff back on that event, who now have a confidence builder at the very beginning, which is amazing for them. And there's going to be other people who are like, well, thank God that's the first event, and it's just, I can forget about it, and I don't need to think about sitting on a paddleboard or swimming for the rest of the week. It's just over with. Like it's done. Like that would be like me if I was at a competition and the workout one had thrusters. I was like, well, at least it's done early. I'm doing it fresh and it's done. I don't need to think about it ever again. So I think, as a first event, it's not going to be a great spectacle, like especially for people in Madison. Like I remember they had the swim. I'm trying to think what it was. It was like swim a certain distance, come back, run, get your paddleboard. Yeah, I think it was swim, paddleboard, swim. I can't remember. There was definitely paddleboards in it. It was the time when Tia and Matt McLeod like raced each other at the end. But like we were in the stadium watching the age group, because like, I was going to walk.
Go there.
Yeah, I wasn't going to walk the whole way over and then like miss like 4 events that I could watch in person, to have some shitty view where I'm like peeking around a tree to try and see like who's that in that hat. Whereas like in the stadium, you had the age group stuff. And then on the big screen, you had footage that was going out live from, I think it was Rogue were doing it at the time. So like as a spectacle for people there, it's going to be like a bit meh. But like for us watching at home, that'll be fine, be a fine event. And I think it's a good one to get out of the way early for people who are going to struggle with it. And it's a good one to start with for people who are going to excel at it as well. The second one's going to be a shit show. The second event, I think.
Yeah, the pig has not been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of people who have never flipped a pig.
Yeah.
And I know tires are similar to that, but it is very different from a tire.
Yeah.
The fulcrum is different.
Do we know if that event too is on day one, or is it just the swim paddle event on day one on Wednesday? Do we know that? I think they put out a schedule.
The schedule's been released.
No, I think the thing he put out was like announcement of it. I don't think he said when.
But I don't know how you get 14 more events on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you'd almost have to.
Well, and they're giving them a rest day on Thursday. So you would presume that Wednesday might be slightly stacked with events just because they're taking a rest. So I don't think they just do a paddle swim and then rest, right? And then jam all the other ones in Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, kind of like 18, where they did the marathon row at the end of the day, and they said it was the toughest first day of the games ever, and
Mhm.
and then gave them 2 day or that rest day on Thursday. I can't
Yeah.
remember the first 2 events, but
See, it depends what the other 15 events are. If they know that one of them is a 1 rep max clean, and then one of them is like what's going to amount to a 6 minute time cap, and another one's going to be a 6 minute time cap, then yeah, they can cram them in, because
Right.
you could easily put like 5-6 minute time cap workouts in a day. If you spread them out well enough, it'll be fine. Whereas if there's a good like broad mix of workouts the whole way through, they're going to have to do more than, they couldn't just do one event on day one. It would be too sparse, I'd say.
Mhm.
So yeah. Then so your man Schmitty says in his announcement, he says 42. Like, I assume that's because he talks really quickly in that one part, and I'm like, does he mean like 42 muscle ups? Is he telling the number of muscle ups? Because he doesn't say the number of, he doesn't say the distance, weight, or anything of the sled, and he doesn't say the number of, or the distance of the pig flip. 42 muscle ups is a shit ton of muscle ups to have on top of all that other stuff, and then you're going back trying to grab that rope after, like, there's going to be carnage at that, I think.
Yeah, and we don't know if it's ring or bar.
Yeah.
yeah, we just talked to Jacqueline Dahlstrom, and she said that is a bicep burner.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always good when it's not you doing it.
Better them than us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd be
So
interested to see what the rest are, though.
I think the one thing that I'm not convinced it's paddle board. Dave never says the word board in his announcement. He says swim a distance, paddle a longer distance.
So do you think it's gonna be like doggy paddle?
I think it's going to be a kayak.
Oh, I don't know. Would you call it paddling on a kayak?
Yeah.
Would you call it kayaking?
Well, you use a paddle to propel.
They called it last year when they did. Didn't a kayak last year?
No kayak was last year.
Or no
The only water
2
event
years
was the
ago.
pool.
Oh yeah.
2 years ago.
No, that was a paddleboard,
paddleboard.
I think. That was a paddleboard where they didn't have an oar, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They were like kneeling on it, and remember some of them were lying down and they were like barely moving, and then others knew what to do and they were kneeling. Well,
Maybe I'm thinking about Dubai.
everyone's asking for a paddleboard. Like, all the athletes are like,
Yeah.
I don't have a paddleboard, please. Now you're going to see them all be like, I don't have a pig. The next one is the 13th. When is that? Tuesday next week is the next
Tuesday.
announcement. So that'll tell all, because if that's a long workout, then they won't have the 3 of those on the first day. Whereas if it's a short one,
Right.
that'll be the end of the first day, I'd say, the third workout.
Or he could make an announcement for an event further down the road, like event 9 will be,
True.
because they've done that in the past too, where they've announced them out of order.
Yeah, but he has the dates written though.
Yeah,
He says,
according
like,
to his
4th to the
Instagram
7th.
post, the 13th is going to be the third event.
Oh,
And then
okay.
the next one we'll get is the 5th event.
Yeah, and on the 4th is OnlyFans.
Right.
Or on field. Yeah. I just wanted to be the 1,005th person to make that joke.
I actually, if you look at how many days, so we're talking Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 days, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that doesn't say anything. I was just looking at the way it was written on
I
the
thought
board.
that as well, yeah. That it might be broken up, but
That maybe it almost looks like 1, 2, and 3 are on the same day. If
yeah. I thought the same about
yeah,
13, 14, 15. They're kind of all to one side. And
right,
yeah, but I don't know. Maybe not.
that would be a brutal day 3 too. Wow.
You'd rarely guess what he's going to do anyway. Like, if you think, I have it, you're wrong.
Completely.
Yeah. So what are your future goals with the podcast?
Oh.
World domination.
I think I'll like, personally, I want to get better at doing it. I think like I want to stay uncomfortable with it. I want to stay like, because I always get nervous beforehand. I always get really nervous when I'm doing, like, say this. I was really nervous for this because when you have no control over it. Like, when it's mine, it's like I have my notes and I know, like, in my head, I have an idea of where it's going to go. And if it doesn't, I have a few other routes in my head. Whereas when you're on someone else's, you have no control. So I always I really get really nervous before doing someone else's. But I still get nervous doing my own, which I think is good, because I think if I don't, there's something wrong. I've lost a bit of spark with it, maybe. So I want to keep being nervous, and I want to keep getting more confident with it as well. So I've gotten pretty quick at, like, 5 minutes in, being like, okay, like, say after the fact, when I hang up the call, after about 5 minutes, I can't remember anything, which is a good sign, because it means I've just kind of gone into a flow and it's just been a chat, like a conversation, really casual. Because I mean, there's been a few where I remember every breath I took because it was just like, oh my God. So if I can have less of those, but they're very sparse. So I think I want to stay uncomfortable. I want to stay nervous, and I want to keep it growing. It's got this slow, like, steady, like, natural growth about it, that it's just slowly, like, churning away, and the number is slowly climbing, that as more people are hearing it, and I'm getting, maybe 1 or 2 messages a week saying, like, oh, how have I just discovered this now, like, it's great, or whatever. And, like, they're amazing. Like, when you hear someone, I suppose that every so often I kind of assume everyone that's going to hear it has heard it now, like, this is it, like, this is the group. And then you get a few more coming in. It's like, oh, like, this is great, like, keep coming. And then a few more and a few more. And I want to keep that. I have this thing that I always reply to every message I get. Like, anytime I get a DM, I always reply to it, or engage it in some capacity. So I want it to grow, but I don't want it to grow to a point where I can't do that anymore. So that makes me a bit nervous, that if it goes out of control, or if I, like, lose sight of what it's for, or, like, the purpose of it. So that's something I'm always conscious of, like, it's great having big names. It's great having, like, Pat Fellner on, great. But, like, if I'm not asking him questions that people want to hear the answer to, or if I'm not making them think, or if I'm not enjoying the conversation, it's pointless. Because I could get, I don't know, if I could get Matt Fraser on, but it's shit, what was the point? Like, what am I, if I don't get him to say something that he hasn't said before, it's a waste of his time and my time. And if he doesn't enjoy it and I don't enjoy it, it's a waste of everyone's time. And, like, no one who listens to it is going to enjoy it then. So I want to keep it, if I can keep it fresh, and keep it, like, keep myself on my toes, I suppose. And, like, I think I said earlier on that, like, I was waiting for this moment of, like, it's kind of a bit shit, but it hasn't come yet. And I think I've surprised myself with how passionate I am about it. And I've surprised myself with how many nights I'll stay awake for a couple of hours thinking about, like, oh, that'd be a good idea. And then, like, gestating on an idea and, like, gladly foregoing sleep to do it. Or, like, sometimes I'll be driving somewhere and I'll space out for, like, 2 hours, and I'll have, like, obviously I'm driving safe. Like, I don't, like, close my eyes or anything. But at the end of the journey, I'll be like, I need to write shit down. Like, I need to get my phone, like, because I'm after having, like, 10 different ideas, or I'm after thinking of a series I can do, or so I think whatever happens, if I lose that, I'll just stop. If I lose, like, the nerves, or if I lose that kind of passion where it's like, I love sitting down, writing questions, thinking of things to talk about. I love researching the people. I love, like, stupid things. Like, I love coming up with the stupid names for the episodes. Like, I love doing that. I love when I can't think of one. I love when I have, like, 3 days of, like, shit, like, this episode is out in 3 days and I can't think of a name for this. And I'm, like, Googling, like, famous people with the same name, or I'm like, is there any phrases that contain something close to that person's name? I love that, because it's like that panic. Like, I hated it at the time, but I love that I've painted myself into this corner of having to think of a stupid name for every episode, instead of just, like, I could have just called it number one Joe Nangle, but instead I was like, cup of Joe. And then I was like, oh crap, now after this with every episode ever. But I was like, oh, I'm okay with it. So, like, yeah, there's I think if you find joy in like the little things that you do with it, like you're never going to get bored of it. Like I find, like I get so much joy out of like clearing off my whiteboard and writing down August and like the numbers for the episodes in August, like, you know, and leaving the blank space for the name. I get so much joy out of that because it's like every month's a totally clean slate. Every episode is a totally clean slate. Every post on Instagram or story or whatever is something totally fresh. And at any time, you can just totally change direction with it because it's mine and I can do whatever I want with it. But yeah, like I got a message yesterday. So I had Carl Stedman. Do you know Carl Stedman? He does like, he's on seminar staff. Oh, we talked about him, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on seminar staff and he's a cool guy. Like probably a word that's bandied around too much is like he's real, you know, but he is really real. Like he's like he couldn't give a shit what anyone thinks of him. And he just says exactly what he thinks, and like, but he's not an asshole about it. You know, the way a lot of people say, like, oh, I'm just real, I'm just myself, and I just say whatever I want, and you know that person is just a dickhead. But he's actually a nice guy. But I got a message off someone who, so she's messaged me like intermittently for different guests I've had on, and been like, that really hit home, and like she did it yesterday, and I got really emotional when she was messaging me because it was like, for me, it was just a conversation with Carol. It was just a chat. But for her, it clearly changed something for her. The stuff that we talked about clearly had an impact on her. She sent me like, you know, those essay, like multi-text, like can't fit it into one message, and sent me like 10 in a row of like, you know, holy shit, this episode was amazing. Like, and little like insignificant things that at the time that he said really rang home for her. And she's like, I'm a coach and I coach a different sport, but my God, the stuff he was saying just really hits home. Like at one point he had said, I asked him a question about, I can't even remember what I asked him, but in his answer at some point anyway, he just said, you know, people are people. And like, it was just a throwaway comment for him. And for me hearing it, it was just, I was just like, oh yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Like, you know, sometimes people are great, sometimes they're assholes, sometimes there's a mix, you know, sometimes they have a good day and a bad day or whatever. But for her, she was like, I really needed to hear that, like, because I have those days where I coach and everything goes terribly and I don't know why. And then I have days where I coach and everything goes amazing and I don't know why. And it's easy to forget that it's like you're dealing with people, like that they could be coming to you after having a shit day at work and not wanting to be there, or they could be coming to you full of beans and like, you know, let's hit it, and everything just works perfectly. And like, when I got those messages from her, I was like, I sent them straight on to Carl, and he was like, oh, you're going to make me emotional. And I was like, I am emotional because it's like the power of speech is just incredible, that like a casual conversation between two people can resonate so strongly with, that's just one person that messaged me. Like, even if it is just one person that listens, and I've said this from the start when I started it, that if one person listens and if one person enjoys it, that's it. I'm great. I'm great with that. I'm really happy with that. So yeah, if I stop enjoying it and if everybody stops listening, then I'll stop. But as for where it's going, I don't have a clue. Like, I'll never reach the heights of like Talking Elite or, you know, Savan, or like there's certain people that just have like pull like that. They can just say, I've reached out to people who have been like, I'm not sure, or like, oh, talk to my manager or whatever. And then like a week later, I'll see them on the Savan show or I'll see them on Talking Elite. And it's like, okay, I get it, you know, but like, I don't think I'll ever be at that level, and I'm fine with that. Because, you know, you've had Justin on, everyone loves an underdog. So if you keep punching above your weight, every punch is a knockout. You know, like if you shouldn't be there in the first place, then every swing you make is perfect, because like, you're not to lose. You know, it's not like I don't have any income from this. I have a job, I have a career, I have a family. So I don't need to do it. So the fact that I don't need to do it, I think takes a lot of pressure off, where like, it doesn't matter if an episode flops. I don't really care. Like if one person's listened to it, or if 10 people listen and one of those 10 says, oh, I like that, that's great. I don't really care after that. You know, don't get me wrong, it'd be great if like, I don't know, Nike want to sponsor the show or whatever. That'd be great. Or like Rogue, like I could do some gear, but like, that's what it is. It's a hobby. So I think like I talked to, you know, Vaki, you know, that does he does like media work, like his own content, and he did loads of graphics on the Granite Games pictures. He like drew on them and like they reshared them and stuff. But he's a cool guy. But he's similar. I think he has aspirations to make it like his career, like to make media his career. But like a lot of stuff he said kind of resonated with me, where it's like, when it's yours, like when it's your own thing, like it really doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about it, because it's yours. And once you can stand over it and say, I'm really happy with that. I know I put in good work doing that research. I know I connected with that person. I know we chatted well. I know they said some valuable stuff, or they said some stuff they haven't said before. Then after that, like, who cares?
Yeah, that's really beautiful. We're in it for the money, so none of that matters to us. But
How much am I getting paid for this episode, by the way? On an unrelated.
As much
No,
as
I'm just
I am.
kidding. Actually, I agree with you a lot. That's the magic of it. Like discovering things about people that you never heard before is why I do this. I love asking questions that nobody else has asked and finding out answers that nobody else has heard. And that's what gives me the juice to keep going every day.
But even
And
the relationships that come from it, like,
oh yeah,
we're in touch a good bit, so like that's shit, obviously. But like, I've had good relationships come from it as well. No, I've had no, but I've had like we talk to each other a lot, and I think we
Yeah.
kind of like, you know, semi soundboard off each other, and like, you know, we've had like, you know, semi deep conversations. I think when the other has needed it, you know, needed a bit of a boost or whatever, or a bit of a vent or whatever. But like, I have people that I consider friends that I've met exclusively through the podcast, either people who listen and who I talk to. There's some of them I talk to every day. There's some of them I talk to every week. Then there's people like I consider, like, you know, Michael Dalton to be like one of my best friends. And I only know him from interviewing him, staying in touch with him afterwards, and like DMing back and forth and sending each other stupid stuff. Same, like, you know, I'd consider Can Porter a good friend, like Royce a good friend. Like, they're people that I met exclusively through this, who we stayed in touch with afterwards, like Brandon Swan. There's a lot of Australians actually. But there's, you know, there's people that, like, again, it's probably people I should have never gotten to speak to. Like, how would our paths have ever have crossed if it wasn't for this? Same like James Hobart. I was emailing him last week trying to organize an interview, and he was like, asked me about my family and like knew the names and, you know, like stuff like that, where it's like, our paths would never have crossed if it wasn't for this. So it's like, even if it stops tomorrow, it's been amazing. And like, there's been amazing relationships have come out of it. But I think the key to it was, and we talked about this before, Scott, but the key to it was, a long time ago, thankfully, I stopped giving a shit about the numbers, and I stopped caring about how many followers, how many likes, how many listens, how many, what. I just detached myself from it completely. And it was so liberating to be like, holy shit, like that doesn't actually matter at all. And then I really started focusing on like getting a message saying that was a good episode, and that's enough. And sometimes I don't get any messages, so it must be shite, but I still enjoy it.
I've got to tell you, one of the best times in my life was Kat and I were in Knoxville for the Mac, and you had sent audio messages, and we kept going back and forth with audio messages for probably an hour that day.
Yeah, that's fun.
And kind of like our first dive with Morning Chalk Up, and that you cared to like check in on us and see how it was and how cool it was. That really made our weekend. I guess I'm speaking for Kat, but we just were laughing so much with you back and forth about all that, and
That
it
was
made
just
it special.
exhaustion.
But yeah, it made it really special and cool. And I'm glad you could jump on with us. We've already gone over an hour, and so I want to give you back your time.
I'm
but
also
maybe
really
we'll do
conscious
this
how many
again,
times
man.
I said shit and shite and stuff as well, because I know you guys are quite careful about, you're selective about your
I'm
language,
not.
we'll say.
Fuck that. I'm not.
No, we're okay.
Okay, that's fine.
And so yeah, we'll have to do this again, man.
Yeah.
We should.
Just shoot the breeze.
I'm a nervous talker, and I'm conscious that I talked a lot there, so
It's all good.
sorry.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, I'd love to.